Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Erica. My name is Lillian Naia Alessa. I am at the University of Alaska Fairbanks with the International Arctic Research Center. I am the project director for the Alaska EPSCoR program, which is Alaskans Adapting to Changing Climates. I am also the PI on the Community Observation Network for Adaptation and Security through AON. I also have worked in this context, leaving out several other things. In this context, I am the U.S. science lead working with the Government of Canada on this Arctic Adaptation Exchange product, which is an adaptation exchange portal. This came about through the Sustainable Development Working Group, working with Natural Resources Canada and several co-leads, which I will go through. Can everybody hear me?
So far, so good, Lil.
Okay, great. So the first slide basically talks, for those of you on the phone, the first slide is the title. And in that title, it's important that the purpose as we envisioned it for the portal was really truly an exchange, taking into account the fact that we as an Arctic community are in different nations, we are widespread, and it is very difficult and very expensive for us to get together with each other in person on a regular basis. So the purpose for the portal, at least the vision for it, is to facilitate adaptation to changing climates. And I won't even go into the details on why this is important, but to emphasize the rates and pace of change across the circumpolar north. Whoops, I'm trying to click. In the capacity of the collaboration that has been putting a lot of work into this, the Canadian team has been amazing. They have dealt with a lot of difficulties. The United States has been fabulous. Michael Young, who is on the phone, has been a great resource. And also our partner institution, Aleut International Association, also known as AIA, as well as the Gwich'in Council International in Canada, and working with Grant Sullivan, who has been fantastic. So in my capacity of the various roles I play, we work very, very closely and on a weekly basis with our communities on the ground, not only in Alaska, but in the Russian Far East, as well as through the Snow Change Cooperative in Norway, Finland, and other parts of Russia. A lot of the goals of the portal were developed from the community up, recognizing that there was also input from the top down, basically a hybridized model of co-producing the goals and purposes for the portal. So officially, it is to develop an online information portal. Sorry, for those of you on the phone, I am on slide 3 under objectives, to develop an online information portal that provides appropriate access to data, knowledge, and tools. And when we say appropriate, we are exceedingly aware and sensitive and committed to ensuring that knowledge is used for purposes that benefit our diverse communities, whoever these users may be, and in no way puts them in a situation where they may be compromised or harmed or have the perception that they are compromised. So the first purpose is really to bring together not only our Indigenous partners and our people, Northern residents as a whole, really, as well as the governments and the industries who share this rapidly changing and very closely tied landscape. The second objective is to enable the sharing of existing tools and practical adaptation experiences. This is the idea that myself, as a mother, when my children were young, I would call other mothers and say, I'm experiencing this. What did you do? What was it that you did to deal with this problem? And our communities have strongly expressed a desire to share knowledge and lessons learned. In the process of doing this, we are hoping that this will also evolve to facilitate the development of new practices and tools that support adaptive responses. This may be a single community that needs to figure out how to diversify their resource base. It could be as large as an industry government cooperative that has to figure out where to cite activity in a way that is both socially and environmentally responsible. So I'm going on to slide 4 here. The target audience really came from, again, the top and the bottom. So communities have told us, you know, the science is great, this is wonderful, and how come we don't have access to it? It's very confusing. So we're looking at community intermediaries, and these are fabulous organizations that already exist that can help users on the ground to channel information and use it. Policymakers who often are dealing with very complex, emergent, and complicated situations to help them as well. And we put the researchers last, not because we don't feel that they are important. We feel they're very critical to our endeavor, but we were trying to make this not an academic exercise, but rather a resource informed by the best available science. Moving on to the next slide. The scope of the portal, and I will admit that when I first heard this and we wrote the proposal, I continuously rolled my eyes and muttered, oh, please, not another website, over and over and over again. So as we thought about the scope of the portal, we will leverage the Arctic Council reports because these are a great resource that we want to call out. We also want to look at different sources of information specific to adaptation in the circumpolar north. So we are talking with the AMAP AACA Part C effort and other best practices and best available knowledge that bring in diverse types of information from different scales. We do have some challenges because many of the data we deal with occur at scales that our communities have said clearly cannot be used at their local scale, the scale what we call of livelihoods. And then the really, we're hoping that the innovative function is this interactive function, essentially creating a community that doesn't have to travel to share knowledge, and that's that interactive function of fora to build the tools, for example, adaptive capacity indicators. The portal is constructed for flexibility and growth, recognizing that what it is now will not be what it is 6 months from now or a year from now. It is really an organism we hope will grow. Next slide. We are on track for our timeline. If someone can mute the ringing phone in the background, that would be great. The timelines, we're on the timeline slide. We went through a very extensive set of scoping activities that we hosted at the University of Alaska Anchorage in February 2014. This then informed a portal blueprint, which was finalized this past June. We just went through a beta version of the portal that is available, and I will give you the links for that. It is not released yet. In January, we are hoping that we will have a very realistic an actionable outreach strategy developed, not just a box checked on that. And then in April of 2015, the portal will be launched. Our progress to date has really involved a lot of talking to people, very, very diverse conversations, a lot of feedback solicited from user groups who could advise the portal design rather than us paying for a portal to be created and then kind of throwing it out there and saying, hey, this is great, please use it. We have secured a partnership which, when the Canadian chairmanship transitions, we will take it on at UAF to ensure that it continues. We don't want it to be another product that was just created again for the purpose of creating something, but something that we are committed to using for the adaptation goal. We have also completed a beta portal for stakeholder review. And I say we, this was entirely the Canadian team, and I will give you the contacts afterward. Stephen Roddick and Beth Lavender, Marie-Caroline, and other folks there in Government of Yukon and Natural Resources. So we would love feedback on the portal, provide the feedback, the password. If the password does not work, I've asked about this several times, add an extra T to the first kellet. I'm on the options for participation slide. And we are really trying to build the archive of adaptation resources. Implicit in this is a document that I have shared with Sarah, and she will post, which is that the adaptation approaches very much require the data streams to feed them. This is the front page, just to give you an idea of what it looks like. We're in the process of essentially beta testing it, making sure it works, making sure it's usable. We have different people using it and telling us what's wrong, what's right. I'm on to now the thank you slide, and for more information, please contact Matt Bender, who is the Canadian Head of Delegation to the Sustainable Development Working Group, or Stephen Roddick, who has been a trooper in getting all this done. And in terms of the adaptive capacity indices or information on the adaptation efforts, please contact me. My email at alaska.edu is below. In terms of the adaptation piece, there is a critical need, and our communities have emphasized this, to diversify the type of observational data. So I've moved on now to a somewhat fuzzy, kind of colorful picture. The observational data, because a key task is really to develop these coupled community up, best science, spatially based layers of observations that can go into the development of the indicators for the adaptive capacity indices. In the development of adaptive capacity indices, a earful of criticism that we got and take to heart is that many of these have been developed on the outside and then brought to the community. So the tactic we are taking is rather to have the communities co-produce the types of indicators that need to be incorporated, as well as be participants in observing the variables that they've identified as critical to their ability to respond to change. Going to the next slide, and the goal is to produce dashboards of adaptive capacity. This is just an example. It's a very early prototype, and this dashboard was developed, co-developed over 3 years by our communities, by 16 communities in Alaska and Russia. So in the context of the portal, we hope to have tools such as these available, as well as fora for communities to discuss how they should be evolved and used. I would like to just leave what we have been talking amongst ourselves about, which is, reaching out to users, because the portal will really depend on its use. And then the innovation space will really depend on what kind of data we can get through observing networks, because these are so critical to assessing adaptive capacity and essentially learning from each other. And of course, sustaining the portal long into the future is what we are currently working on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lil. I'd like to open it up for any questions. Is that someone trying to ask a question? I have one, if I may. So, in developing your outreach plan, I'm wondering if the conversations that have led up to this point have identified certain gaps or, identified needs within communities where they say, oh, I see that, you have this information or this knowledge, we wish we had that too. Are there sort of those gaps and needs being identified along the way, and is that something that is going to be part of the outreach plan, sort of communicating, how those might be addressed?
Yeah, and that's actually, I think you said it better than I did. Exactly, that's part of the evolution of the portal, or the purpose of the portal is for communities to be able to say, oh, this is all great, but we don't know X, Y, and Z, and we really need to know this. If you could provide this, then we would use it, and this is why. So it is true that for the outreach, we have not developed the outreach plan fully yet, and like any outreach plan, we're struggling a little bit with the best way to do it. But really, a user-driven, responsive structure is definitely the way to go.
And do you get a feeling that there's long-term support on the Canadian side for this?
I do get from the individuals, and I'm not speaking officially on behalf of the Canadians, but from the individuals that have been involved with it, absolutely, very much so. In fact, we are probably going to hold a follow-up workshop for the users themselves, and actually targeting users from the community level. We need to decide if we're going to include government and policymakers, but definitely users from the community, and the Canadians are working very closely with us on that. So yes, from the people in their hearts, absolutely.
Does anyone else have any questions? Kind of a quiet group today. I guess one last question I have, because I'm exploring it online here, and it did take 2 T's, Kellett with 2 T's in both blanks to get in. Is there an opportunity to submit to this, to sort of add points on the map? And if so, how is that done?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. To add points on the map, so the ability to add points on the map, we are envisioning basically intake, and you can say, I have a point I want to add on the map, and adding data will go through our outfit at UAF, and the information will come in through a template, and that template can include either links, metadata, data, however it's structured, and then our it'll probably be one of our folks out of the Geographical Information Network of Alaska will basically add those to the portal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just wondered, you know, the sort of vetting process, et cetera, to make sure that the indices were co-developed and not, you know, sort of being attributed by an outside source.
Yes, that's a really good point in terms of quality control, quality assurance, and we are working on basically a quality control protocol for that. It's funny you mentioned that. That actually just came up last week.
Okay, I feel like I'm hogging the line, but I just wanted to, you know, ask one more time if there are any questions. And if not, we want to thank you very much for the presentation today, and I hope people take the time to go explore the beta. And this is really great considering our next agenda point, which is the discussion of the Arctic Observing Assessment, and the push from the Arctic Observing team to have a priority within the assessment focused on climate change adaptation and mitigation. So it seems like there's some great synchrony and process already, progress already in process. Last chance, comments and questions for Lil? Okay, thank you so much, Lil. Very much appreciated, and please feel free to stay for the rest of the discussion if you'd like.